The mansion stood on the hill, high above the city, tall windows reflecting the grey clouds that hung like sorrow in the sky. From the outside, it looked like everything the world admired: wealth, power, perfection. Yet, inside, the silence was heavy. It was not the silence of peace, but of distance, of words left unsaid and secrets kept too long. Veronica sat by the window, her fingers tracing the edge of her teacup, her eyes fixed on nothing. She was beautiful, even in sadness. Her beauty was fragile, like porcelain about to crack. The papers had called her the billionaire's wife, as though her name did not matter, as though her love and sacrifice could be reduced to a title. But inside her heart, she was simply Veronica, a woman who had once believed in love, in touch, in the warmth of a man's embrace. Johnson, her husband, was a man of the world, billionaire, businessman, a figure everyone respected and envied. He had everything: yachts, skyscrapers, a name that opened every door. But Johnson had what few noticed: loneliness. His wealth was armor, his charm was a mask, his power was a wall. Behind it, he was a man carrying secrets too heavy, wounds too old. The mansion was filled with things money could buy, but love was not one of them. Veronica remembered the first time she met Johnson. It was not in a ballroom or at a gala, but in a library. She was a student, bent over books, her hair falling across her face. He had come in by accident, seeking silence from the noise of the city. He was older, already successful, his presence filling the quiet room. She had looked up, and their eyes met. In that moment, something tender and dangerous bloomed between them. He smiled, she blushed, and the world outside seemed to vanish. Later, he told her he had never believed in fate until then. She laughed and said fate was a word used by lonely poets. But when he touched her hand for the first time, she felt it, the strange power of an embrace, the warmth that told her she was not invisible. He pursued her gently, not with diamonds or promises, but with attention. He listened to her stories, remembered the little things, looked at her as though she was the only person in a crowded room. That was how Veronica fell, not into wealth, but into a man's gaze that made her feel alive. The wedding was like a dream. The world saw a fairy tale, a billionaire marrying a girl from nothing. Flashing cameras, headlines, envy, whispers. They called her lucky, but Veronica never wanted luck, she wanted love. And in the beginning, there was love. Real love, nights of laughter, days of passion, long walks where the world did not matter. She held him when he was weary. He kissed her like she was air itself. Their bed was not only for sex but for whispers, secrets, comfort. Yet slowly, shadows began to fall. Johnson worked longer hours. Meetings stretched into nights. His phone buzzed with names she did not know. She told herself it was business. She told herself love was enough. But when he came home late, smelling of perfume that was not hers, she began to taste the bitterness of silence. Every marriage carries secrets, but theirs grew like vines, twisting around their hearts. Johnson carried secrets from his past, affairs before her, deals made in darkness, choices that left scars. Veronica sensed them but did not ask. She was afraid of the answers. But she had secrets too. She had written letters to a man she once loved before Johnson, letters she never sent, letters she kept hidden in a drawer. They were not love letters, but confessions of longing, of a life that might have been. When guilt pricked her, she told herself they were only words. Yet secrets are like smoke, they escape, they choke, they stain everything. One night, when the rain fell against the glass windows of the mansion, Johnson found the letters. He read them in silence, his face pale, his hands trembling. He did not shout, he did not accuse, he simply placed them on her desk and walked away. The silence between them became unbearable. There was a woman in Johnson's life, a name whispered in the city. A model, young, reckless, radiant. She followed him to parties, to hotels. Veronica had heard the rumors, seen the photographs in magazines. Each time, Johnson denied them with a smile, with words that sounded rehearsed. But Veronica knew, a wife always knows. One evening, she asked him directly. Her voice did not rise. It was quiet, almost pleading. Is there someone else? Johnson did not answer at first. He stared at her, his eyes dark with something between shame and anger. Then he whispered, it was nothing. But in love, nothing is never nothing. Veronica turned away, tears falling silently. She did not scream, she did not throw things. Her pain was not fire but water, endless, drowning her slowly. Sex became mechanical. Their bodies touched, but their souls did not. She lay beside him at night, listening to his breathing, wondering if his dreams carried another woman's name. He held her, but the embrace was heavy, as though he was holding a memory, not her. She began to walk the gardens alone, speaking to flowers, to shadows. She kept journals filled with words of pain. She wrote of sacrifice, of how love sometimes means staying when leaving would be easier. Johnson noticed, but he did not know how to reach her. He had power in the boardroom, but not in love. He had mastered money, but not tenderness. Their marriage was a mansion with walls of glass, beautiful from afar, but fragile, breakable. Then came the night everything changed. Johnson's car crashed on a rain-slick road. He survived, but barely. Machines kept him alive, tubes in his body, doctors shaking their heads. The man who had once seemed untouchable was now fragile, broken. Veronica sat by his hospital bed, her hands on his cold fingers. She whispered to him, prayed for him, begged him not to leave. For days she did not sleep. She remembered their first embrace, the way he once looked at her, the nights when love was pure. And in that room of machines, she realized something. Despite the secrets, the pain, the betrayals, she still loved him. Because love is not clean. It is messy, wounded, flawed. But love is also sacrifice, the willingness to stay when everything inside you says run. Johnson woke, weak but alive. His first sight was Veronica, her eyes swollen from crying, her hands holding his. For the first time in years, he saw her not as the billionaire's wife, not as someone bound by duty, but as the woman who loved him enough to stay through storms. He wept, and in that moment, the walls inside him cracked. He confessed everything, the affairs, the loneliness, the fear of not being enough. His voice shook. I thought love was giving you the world, but I never gave you myself. Veronica listened, silent tears falling. She told him of the letters, of her own secrets, of her longing for the man he once was. They held each other, fragile, broken, yet alive. And in their embrace, something shifted, not a return to the past, but the birth of something new. When Johnson left the hospital, he was not the same man. He walked slower, thought deeper, spoke softer. He looked at Veronica with eyes that had learned humility. They returned to the mansion, but it was no longer just walls of glass. It became a place of rebuilding. They spoke at night, really spoke. They confessed, forgave, cried. Sometimes they made love gently, sometimes they simply held each other until morning. Their marriage was no longer perfect, but it was real. Veronica learned that love was not in riches, not in appearances, not in titles. Love was in sacrifice. Love was in pain endured together. Love was in the power of embrace, the simple act of holding on, even when the world tries to pull you apart. Years later, Veronica would sit again by the window, watching clouds move across the sky. The world still called her the billionaire's wife, but in her heart, she was more. She was a woman who had walked through fire and stayed. Johnson would walk in, older, gentler, his hand finding hers. He would kiss her forehead and whisper, "Thank you for staying." And she would smile, with tears in her eyes, knowing the truth. Love is not about never breaking. Love is about breaking and still choosing to hold each other. Their story was not a fairy tale. It was not clean, not perfect. It was filled with sex, secrets, betrayal, pain. But it was also filled with sacrifice, forgiveness, and the power of embrace. And in the quiet of their mansion, they learned what the world never understood. That love, even broken, can still be beautiful.